Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. You're watching The Mint. I'm Abhishek Singh, and our coverage on the budget continues. Now I am joined by Mr. Mistry, who's the former Vice Chairman and CEO of Housing Development Finance Corporation. He is, of course, Independent Director with many companies. Thank you, Mr. Mistry, for taking the time and talking to us.
Sure, thank you.
Mr. Steve, your first reaction to the budget, because there was, of course, a lot of things which were being asked for, which people, especially the middle class, expected, demanded from the finance minister. Some of them have been met. So your initial reaction?
I think, first of all, my first reaction is that it's an extremely comprehensive budget, extremely comprehensive. Just about every sector in the economy, every critical sector in the economy, something or the other has been done for the sector. Whether you look at agriculture, you look at the MSME sector, you look at tourism, you look at energy, you look at growth, you look at consumption, all of this, and multiple other things. So it's very comprehensive, and the coverage is very comprehensive. When the budget was, before the budget was being presented, I thought that there were 4 or 5 important pillars to the budget, which were important. The first was the budget should emphasize on growth, and we'll come to each of these, how it's been tackled. The second was that it should boost consumption. The third was that there should be job creation, measures to create jobs in the economy. The fourth was something for the rural economy to boost demand from the rural economy. And the fifth was manufacturing. And the last was fiscal discipline. And one more was capital market reforms. Now, out of all these 7 odd pillars that we were talking about, everything has been done. Maybe capital markets is perhaps the only thing where relatively less has got done. But nothing, there will be no negative news on capital markets. So let's look at each of these. I think the single biggest driving force of the budget is around consumption. For the last 3 odd years, we've seen that economic growth has been, in a big way, supported by large government investments in infrastructure. Roads being built, highways being built, airports, very big sector, etc. Now, private sector capex has still not picked up in any significant manner. To my mind, what has been done in the budget is that with the lowering of the tax payable by a middle income person because of the increase in the exemption limit, and with more money being left with people, people will spend that money. Consumption will increase. Whether it is your day-to-day consumption of food items or whether it is more consumer durables or whatever, consumption will increase. Now, when consumption increases, it automatically spurs economic growth. Because when consumption increases, manufacturers need to produce that much more to support that demand. To produce that much more, they need to create new facilities. So more private sector capex takes place with a lag. All this obviously comes with a lag. Right. So I think in a very nice way, the finance minister has now created a situation where you will see a pickup in private capex, but not immediately, over a period of the next 2 to 3, 4 quarters. So this is a very important forward budget. Second is job creation. I mean, there are so many little measures in the budget which will facilitate job creation. All the focus on the agri reforms will create jobs. The MSME sector, extremely important. MSME sector is a very large employment generator. So by all these reforms in the MSME sector, more jobs will get created. So there is enough in the, and if the capex, private sector capex picks up over a period of time, obviously that also will generate its own jobs. So that is the second part of the budget which has been met. Growth, job creation. Consumption, of course, goes without saying, because the whole focus of the budget is consumption. So picking up of consumption, ours is a domestic economy. Nearly 60% of our economy is domestic. So with all the global headwinds in terms of tariffs and all the stuff that we keep hearing about, creating an even stronger domestic economy is a great idea. So that's the third part which is met. The fourth part is the rural economy, where all the focus on agriculture will bring fruit. Fifth is the Make in India manufacturing, where again, there have been various initiatives have been taken, particularly in the MSME sector. And last but not the least is fiscal discipline. So by reducing the fiscal deficit from the target of 4.9 to 4.8, and next year's target now at 4.4 versus 4.5, I think it sends very positive signals to the market. So this budget is not inflationary, not at all inflationary, number one. And number two, if we continue maintaining fiscal discipline, then I see no reason why India's rating in the global market, when I say India's rating, I mean the country rating, should not improve over a period of time.
Right, right. And interestingly, there is, of course, a 1 lakh crore fund, Urban Challenge Fund, which has also been announced by the finance minister. And the focus of that is, of course, going to be, creating the kind of infrastructure which is needed in major Indian cities. Because, of course, if you talk about cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Bengaluru, there is infrastructure which is required, A. B. What is also needed, perhaps, is creating other set of cities where, there is space available, and the kind of affordable housing, etc., which is required to sustain the population which comes to such cities will stay in. So talk to us about the Urban Challenge Fund, and what role do you see that playing as far as the development of such cities and infrastructure is concerned?
I mean, any fund you create for infrastructure growth and for creating better facilities in cities and for creating more cities is obviously something we have to view very, very, very positively. Affordable housing is perhaps one area where we could have seen something being mentioned in the budget, but it's not necessary that it's a budget item. It need not be a budget item. We had this PMAY 1, Prime Minister's Awas Yojana 1, about 5 or 6 years ago, and that was extremely successful. So that sought to provide a subsidy to first-time home buyers, first-time eligible home buyers. And there is an expectation that we will at some point of time see a PMAY 2, which will be targeted also at the urban market, at the urban consumers, and that would also provide a fillip to affordable housing in the urban areas.
Right.
See, housing is an important sector of the economy because it creates jobs. It's one of the largest employment generators after agriculture, perhaps. And it creates jobs.
One of the reasons because of which housing has been, especially urban housing, has been in such focus is because if you talk about individuals, professionals who are making anywhere between 12 to 15 lakhs, the amount of EMI that they can afford on a house is in the range of 45 to perhaps 55,000 rupees a month, right? And with that, I mean, the kind of houses that you now have available in cities like, for that matter, Delhi NCR, Hyderabad, Bengaluru, those houses have become unaffordable. But at the same time, you have a situation where the industry, of course, is built in or around these cities. So professionals have no choice but to come to these cities. And so, of course, housing has been in focus for a while.
Yeah, and housing is also a big boost to the economy. Because, as I said, job creation, not just in the housing sector, but the housing sector supports so many other industries, cement, steel, paint, power. So if demand for housing increases, all these industries get a boost, and therefore therefore employment in all these industries. So it's still possible that something could be done.
That's likely to happen now?
I don't know. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But some program for affordable housing is something which can always come up. I'm sure the government's working with, at least I would think they'd be working with the National Housing Bank to come out with some program or the other.
Right. So out of 10, my last question to you, out of 10, how many stars will you give to the budget presented by the finance minister? Her 8th consecutive budget, by the way, which is an exceptional feat in itself.
No, I think it's an extremely comprehensive budget. And it's not that the finance minister has sought to spur growth by just keeping on investing in infrastructure. It is by creating a framework which will increase demand in the economy and therefore consequently automatically over a period of time lead to demand for a pickup in the capex cycle, private sector capex cycle. So when you analyze it with that depth, I would say 8.5 to 9 marks out of 10. Why 8.5, 9? I think something could have been done in terms of tax rates at the highest level. Because if you
Right.
see the maximum marginal tax rate in India is 39%. If
True.
that could have been lowered a little bit, that could have boosted sentiments even more and may not have made too much of a difference in terms of collection. But otherwise, fabulous budget, extremely well articulated, extremely well thought of. Every sector of the economy gets some kind of a benefit, and overall focus on growth, employment, consumption, all of that has been kept in mind.
Essentially, the key challenges which the government was facing, the budget addresses a lot of them in a comprehensive
Absolutely.
way, as you were saying. And I think that's a great note to wrap this interview up on. So thank you so much for taking the time,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mistry, and talking to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
As hectic consultations continue, India awaits the Budget 2025 verdict. Will taxpayers now get some relief? How will the Finance Minister push for more consumption? As India Inc. pushes for sector-based reforms, Centre weighs options to spur growth. Watch Finance Minister Sitharaman's 8th budget presentation, complete with live updates.
Finance Ministry should have one uniform rate of tax.
Carefully curated summaries, perspectives from top leaders, and tools to calculate how it impacts your pocket. On 1st February, stay tuned to Mint, your only destination for Budget 2025 coverage.